While Ukraine does it all to become NATO, NATO comes to Ukraine. Sudden under-carpet forced changes in the Kremlin. Why, who and what's to expect? Protests in Georgia. Georgian people want their country back. Good afternoon, this is Highranking in the UATV English studio as usual to bring you the hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. As you probably know, Jens Stoltenberg is in Ukraine. Nothing special, just the leader of the Allied forces came to our capital. President Zelensky, of course, met Secretary General. Different topics were discussed, from the strengthening of air defense to Ukraine's full membership in NATO. The two met with the Ukrainian military undergoing NATO professional education courses. Thanks to the support of our partners, the Ukrainian military is mastering modern Western weapons and sharing its own experience, which is the invaluable experience of protecting life in modern warfare. This is the way of Ukraine, you see, a path we did not choose. However, ever since we found ourselves in the middle of hell, we kept on walking through it, learning to survive along the way. Today we're sharing the knowledge that will surely become the common practice for entire Europe, when the objective reality will be recognized and Ukraine joins the alliance de jure. De facto, meanwhile, mutual work towards an allied goal is already in progress.
Other allies are looking into what more they can do, and I expect new announcements soon. So we are working hard to meet Ukraine's urgent needs. And I have been clear that if allies face a choice between meeting NATO capability targets or supporting Ukraine, they should support Ukraine. So now our responsibility is to ensure that these announcements are turned into real deliveries, physical deliveries of weapons and ammunition as soon as possible. And this logistic work, the practical implementation of delivery of ammunition and weapons to Ukraine is shared by General Cavoli, the US top commander in Europe, is responsible for that effort. I'm in regular contact with him, and he is very much aware of the urgency.
Вчасна підтримка нашої армії.
Timely support for our army. Today, I don't see anything positive on this point yet. There are supplies. They have slightly begun. This process needs to be sped up. And the third and most important point is that it's one question whether there is money. This is very important, and we are thankful to our partners. But it's very important what we received for this money.
Well, of course, the two leaders addressed the theme of preparations for the NATO summit in July. Allies have already agreed to plan for a greater NATO role in coordinating security assistance and training for Ukraine, said Stoltenberg, adding that he believes NATO must have a major multi-year financial commitment to sustain its support to Ukraine, to demonstrate that this support is not short-term and ad hoc, but long-term and predictable. Moscow must understand they cannot win and they cannot wait us out, said Stoltenberg. I'll give you a secret now. Dear viewers, Moscow knows it, always knew. Putin might be a murderer and a completely wasted, bloodthirsty Soviet KGB thug does not mean he is an idiot. And so are, well, at least some of his generals are not. They all knew back then, before this terrible act of aggression against Ukraine, they cannot win a direct conflict with NATO. But Moscow can win time. A lot of it. For example, for sure won a lot this recent month. The Ukrainian army was oozing life, literally, in senseless idling, waiting for the West to finally stop swaying around the obvious necessity to defend itself.
Ukraine has been outgunned for months, forced to ration its ammunition. This means that few Russian missiles and drones have been shot down, and Russia has been able to push forward along the front line. But it's not too late for Ukraine to prevail. More support is on the way.
It is good to know mistakes were acknowledged, because all these masters of stalling time, all Moscow spies exist not only in the United States, but in Europe and Africa and South and East America just as well, and they work hard and are paid well. As a result, Kremlin wins time, and time is the most powerful resource in the real universe, just as kryptonite is in DC's one. The only difference is that in comics, bad guys always lose. And in real life, this is how they are winning. You see, when they can't win, buying more time. So in easy terms, this is exactly why Zelensky and Stoltenberg met in Kiev, to make sure Putin has no more time. In Russia on April 23rd, a deputy minister of defense, Timur Ivanov, was arrested. He is suspected of bribery. Oh, no. Russian minister and bribery. It has to be a mistake. Comrade Ivanov was in particular famously responsible for the construction of the Vostochny spaceport, the Ministry of Defense temple, and the restoration of occupied Mariupol. What bribery are we talking about here, right? It can't even be called a bribe, really. You just cut a slice of a country's GDP and make it your own. It's sharing. Nevertheless, obviously, Comrade Ivanov is not enough comrade to Putin these days anymore and was arrested. Recently, another high-profile Kremlinite, Anton Filatov, a CEO of several companies subordinate to the Russian Ministry of Defense, ended up in custody on charges of large-scale embezzlement. No details disclosed to Russian public. Well, sure, why would Russian public need to know anything about undercover games of the Kremlin? Russian public is needed so to timely support the imperial ambitions of Putin during a plebiscite. This is good, and what is bad for Russian public is to know why Minister of Defense of Russia and his deputy are arrested. But what do we know about it? Ivanov's arrest is an attack on Shoigu. That must be obvious. Shoigu will be weakened and risks losing his post as a Minister of Defense of Russia. It will certainly reduce Shoigu's own stakes during the main government rotation. Some say Security Council Patrushev may be behind the attack on him, but these are just Russian names for us, really. One general leaves, the other one comes, and Putin stays. So Dmitry Peskov's Putin spokesperson, daughter's company increased its income by more than 3-5 times, earning almost 500 million rubles more. Wow, it is awesome. This girl is genius and should be included in the Forbes Dictator's Kids edition, maybe. Well, anyway, what becomes obvious to us viewers of UATV English looking at all this havoc and Soviet chaos, nightmare and hot bit of lies and disinformation, it is obvious that the Russian elites in particular are as stable as Putin's stability in general. While some fall, others keep on stealing. And what about the people, you might ask? All good, all the same. Usual Russian national disregard to reality. Nobody asks why the Minister of Defense was arrested after all now and not earlier, and why exactly he was arrested. Nobody asks why, if Russia is as great as successful as Putin claims it to be, it needs to invade Ukraine in the first place. While they could just resettle everyone who does not want to live in Ukraine to their great and successful Russia. So what's to expect? Further fallout, I believe, that much is clear. More generals, more ministers will fall soon. Reasons could be different, but one thing is clear. When Russian courts are blaming Russian high profiles for bribery, this, in fact, might be the only truth Russian courts have unintentionally produced for decades. Thousands of people in Georgia have again taken to the streets of the capital, Tbilisi, to protest against the controversial foreign influence transparency law. The divisive, so to say, or shall we say openly pro-Russian draft law requires media and non-commercial organizations to register as being under the foreign influence if they receive more than 20% of their funding from abroad. Critics have dubbed it as the Russian law directly because Moscow uses similar legislation to control media and organizations seen as being at odds with Kremlin in Russia. Protesters are certain the proposed legislation would undermine democracy and derail the country's chances of joining the European Union.
I'm here to protest against the so-called Russian law. This is a law which stigmatizes any free-minded person, a free-minded organization which receives more than 20% of its funding from foreign sources. And there are hundreds of such NGOs who have done so much good for Georgia and now they face being stigmatized and also possibly shut down because the law gives the powers to the Ministry of Justice to shut any of them at their discretion.
Georgia's President Salome Zurabishvili has said she would veto the law if it is passed by parliament. But the ruling party still can override the veto by collecting 76 votes. In December, the EU granted Georgia official candidate status, but before membership talks can be formally launched, Tbilisi will have to do a lot of things: reform the judicial and electoral systems, reduce political polarization, improve press freedom and curtail the power of oligarchs, said Brussels.
We were critical, as was the entire European Union, of the law regarding the influence of foreign organizations. Once it was stopped, we were very hopeful that it would not come into effect again. Now there is a new proposed legislation going in the same direction. Our criticism remains the same as last time, and we hope the law will not be passed and that the criticism by us and others is being considered. We believe that such laws are not needed.
Indeed. So does the nation. So the nation does not want the law. The president does not want the law either, but a pro-Russian government and a party, Georgian Dream, whatever that means, still tries to push it. The question is I have this regard, whose dream is it after all? Huge crowds have rallied in Georgia's capital Tbilisi calling for the country to pursue a course to Western orientation response to a draconian bill influenced by Russia. About 20,000 people joined the March for Europe on Sunday, calling on the government to just scrap the bill. One point during the largely peaceful rally, demonstrators attempted to break through a police cordon outside the parliament building to hoist an EU flag. Police used pepper spray without warning, and then the Ministry of Internal Affairs said in a statement that, I quote, "The protest turned violent and the demonstrators physically and verbally confronted law enforcement." Well, in this regard, I have a question to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Georgia. What exactly did you expect, ladies and gentlemen, from your nation, which demands its country back? To lay down and obey? Nah, come on. They're not Russians, after all. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Stay with us. Find us on the internet. Be updated, comment, like and subscribe to UATV English channel for more news directly from Ukraine. Your support really matters. Thank you so very much and see you soon.